come to drop the bomb.
Drop the bomb.
Drop the bomb.
Drop the bomb.
We gonna drop the bomb.
Drop the bomb.
We gonna drop the bomb.
Drop the bomb.
We come to drop the bomb.
Drop the bomb.
This is a journey into sound. A journey which along the way will bring to you new color, new dimension, new values, and a new experience.
Singer-songwriter Ayanna Gregory, daughter of the late legendary Dick Gregory and Lillian Gregory, is also an educator and human rights activist who has set the bar really high for tackling social issues. She's our modern-day freedom fighter, with her dad, Dick Gregory, being one of the most influential people of the 1960s civil rights movement. Ayanna followed in his footsteps through the use of her music after that era ended. With an upbringing that forced Ayanna to critically examine social issues, her use of music is a vehicle to empower the world's human occupants. Let's take a listen.
1932, somehow Mama knew God had a plan for you. With a light around your head, some tried to hurt you, but you made them laugh instead.
That beautiful melodic voice that you just heard is none other than Ayanna Gregory. That song was performed at her one-woman show entitled Daughter of the Struggle, which is an intimate journey into the life of the legendary Dick Gregory and the family that loves him. Ayanna, welcome to the show.
Wow, thank you. Thank you, brother.
Well, thank you for your patience. I know we had some technical difficulties, but thank you for your patience, and thank you for joining me in the bomb shelter. I have been waiting for this interview for a very, very long time. You are an inspiration to watch. I watched you with my daughter. I got a chance to meet your dad on several occasions. But before we jump into your dad and your beautiful mother and the rest of the family, when did you first notice that you can sing, or as black folks say, sang like that?
I guess I was in elementary school, because I remember my family, at the family functions and stuff. I always remember the older siblings saying, "Come on, little Ayanna, come on, sing something for us." And I remember as a little girl, I was mesmerized by the musical The Wiz. That was when, Stephanie Mills was on Broadway doing The Wiz. And one year my mom and dad brought us to see it. And I was probably, I don't know, I was young. I was just not the same on the other side of that play. So, every time I had the opportunity to sing, I was singing Home and Soon As I Get Home and all the songs from The Wiz. So it was somewhere around, 7, 8 that I think I realized, okay, I can sing. I think it was around that time.
So since we're talking about The Wiz, because we both got our Chicago roots, you probably saw it the same place I saw it. Stephanie Mills or Diana Ross? Be honest, which one?
Ooh,
come on now.
Come on now.
Which one? Be honest, Stephanie Mills or Diana Ross?
This is the thing.
Hold on, you backtracking.
No. Stephanie sang.
Yes.
Diana Ross doesn't sing.
Yes.
But Diana is so damn classic. I was just listening to some of Diana's stuff. If I were imitating a voice,
yes,
it's Stephanie Mills.
That's
for
right.
Sure.
Okay, but you didn't answer.
It's just that Diana Ross is so classic. I can't even.
I know why. You probably got connections to probably both sides.
That's rough right there. That's rough.
But let me say, you know why Diana got put down for the movie. I'm gonna leave it at that, because if you saw the same play that I saw as a little kid, Diana Ross over Stephanie Mills. Stephanie Mills was a beast. When you hear that song Home, she freaking on. You ain't
nobody can do what she did to it. No one.
Miss Gregory on the phone is trying to be politically correct. to keep.
No.
Yes, I know, but you know doggone well. We're gonna leave that alone.
I can't. I didn't want. I mean, truth be told, when I saw, because of course the play, the musical is what we saw first.
Yes.
I didn't want to hear nothing else besides that version. It was just like, and especially as a child, children are accustomed to a particular song in a certain way. So I was like, wait a minute, this don't sound like it did in the play, Mama. Hold up,
Yeah, I but it was a great play, great performance.
It was.
So that play really got you started. So how would you describe your music or your sound?
Music, it's healing music, and it's musically, I would say it's in the tradition of, let me just say this. My greatest influencers musically have been Stevie Wonder, Donny Hathaway, and Lauryn Hill. Lauryn, of course, who came much, much later. But yeah, deep soul roots. It's interesting because I did not grow up in the church, and yet when my first album, Beautiful Flower, came out, people didn't know where to place it because I have a heavy, raspy voice, and it's definitely, I definitely have a voice for gospel music, and I didn't, I always blame my mom and dad because I'm like, we didn't grow up in the church, so I didn't learn these classic gospel songs that everybody black knows. I didn't grow up knowing them, and so as when I became an adult, I had to catch up on some stuff quick. But people were like, okay, well, how do we categorize your music? Is it inspirational? Is it gospel? It's like, well, it's not. It's not connected to any particular religion. It's not Christian music. And at the same time, I like to think it's inspirational. So soul music, encapsulates it best especially because soul is inclusive of so many different genres. I mean, when I perform, it is a combination of funk. It is a combination of R&B, house, hip hop, blues, and reggae music. So it's and world beat. We do some traditional African music. So it really is soul music in every way, I believe.
Yeah, you said Donny and Donny Hathaway, Lauryn Hill, Stevie Wonder. I mean, that's a really, really great mix of age. That's a really, really great mix of their sound, their melody. But man, I love all three of them. But when you talk about going back to the Chi, straight out of St. Louis, when you talk about Donny, and you got your Howard University connection, when you talk about Donny Hathaway embodying that music, I got a chance to see a good friend of mine play Donny Hathaway. And let me just tell you, that thing was unbelievable. And so for those folks that have never heard your voice or never heard you sing, if they don't understand you by now, in this short period of time, because you said Stevie, Lauryn, and Donny Hathaway, I mean, that's a great mixture of three unbelievable people who take you somewhere. And it's interesting you talked about the church. Let me just tell you, folks in the church will tell you that'll tear your doggone voice up. So that was probably a good thing that you would not sing it in the choir. Jacking your voice up. And that's what I tell my daughter.
The way he said choir, I'm done.
Because Hidayah wants to go to Howard University and Howard and Spelman. And everybody's like, well, you got to join the choir. I'm like, listen, we fellowship at Union Temple in D.C. I'm like, listen, that choir will destroy your voice. And so that might have been a good thing that you did not get that part of you.
Oh, let you tell it.
So is there a singer that you would, if you had an opportunity to perform with a singer, is there someone that you would just love to perform with on stage that you have not?
My greatest aspiration in terms of singing with somebody was, of course, Stevie Wonder, and I was grateful to have had that opportunity on 2 occasions. So Stevie is always, the zenith point for me, and I'm sure for so many people around the world. So that would be top. Other than that, Lauryn Hill. I would love to sing with Lauryn Hill.
Let's clarify, which Lauryn Hill? Lauryn Hill with the Fugees, Lauryn Hill after the Fugees, Lauryn Hill before she got hooked up with the Marleys.
Oh Lord!
I think the Marleys are like the Kardashian on the conscious level now, man.
I can't do
so
it.
which Lauryn Hill are you talking about?
I need off to clarify. The chain.
Which one are we talking
I'll
about?
take any of them. She's a beast at any level. at Lauren's worst, she's a freaking genius. So it don't matter. It don't matter.
Yeah.
Post Marley, post, Lauryn Hill Unplugged, when they said she's crazy, I'm like, okay, I'll take her.
You would take that. So
any stage, I'll take her.
So what does singing do for you? What does it do for you?
You know what? When I was young, singing was...
Hold up, like you're an old lady right now. Like when I was young...
I'm a little old. No. But when I was, before I became an adult, I should just say that.
Go ahead.
I was, singing was a way out. It was an escape. Now it's a little different. So I'll give you two answers. So as a child, singing was an escape. I grew up in a very dichotomous environment, like so many black folks I know. I grew up in an all-white environment because, I was born in the Chi, but we moved in 1973. I was only 2 years old. So what I remember in my childhood was really Massachusetts and completely white environment. So music was an escape culturally and spiritually for me. It was a way for me to create a parallel universe for myself where everything I needed culturally and socially, as I moved through adolescence, all the things that were voided out and that I didn't have a reflection of in my outer world among my peers, I got through music. So Stevie Wonder's music was more than music. It really became like the musical backdrop for the parallel universe I created when I became a teenager. Because, your teenage years, they can be rough. You're going through adolescence and, you got esteem issues and all of those things. And so Stevie's music really became this spiritual voice that validated me. So me singing and wanting to emulate him and wanting to emulate Whitney Houston and, all these amazing singers, Shaka Khan and Stephanie Mills and whatnot, it became my escape. It became a world that nobody could really mess with. And so now fast forward, as I moved into my 20s and then 30s and now 40s and now as I approach, 50 in a couple years, what I'm really clear about is that singing is a healing for me. I used to think that singing, when I wrote these songs and performed these songs, that I was doing it for other people, and I was. And I recognized, I heard Lauryn Hill say it one time. She said, look, what people don't understand is the gift that we've been given, because it's not ours. We get the gift first. And so I never thought about it like that. I mean, most singers don't think this is a gift for me first. We tend to think this is a gift we have to spread to the masses. When in actuality, if I'm singing something to help heal heavy hearts, and to, lighten hearts and help people free themselves and liberate the mind, body, and soul, well then I have an opportunity to do that first. It's like sometimes we have this tendency, and I'm speaking about myself, to think, oh, I'm going to help somebody else and didn't even help me. Your stuff is broke, but you're trying to help somebody else. No, you take that medicine first. So now singing for me, sometimes if I'm feeling low, if my energy is low, if I'm feeling sad about something or just off, I will unconsciously bring myself back to center by just humming, singing. I sing so unconsciously. My neighbor who lives right next door the other night, she said, girl, you be singing 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. I said, are you serious? She's like, these walls are thin. I hear you. And I was like, wow.
You better watch that neighbor. Oh, well, I don't know what else going on.
She was like,
she listening to.
She was like, girl, she was giving me the rundown. And I said, wow, I'm singing at 3, 4 in the morning. I had no clue. And I recognize it's very therapeutic for me. It's a very healing. So at this point, it's become a medium of healing and transformation. I literally remember writing a song. It was I had just broken up with somebody. I was in so much emotional pain. I remember laying in the bed and just crying, and I'm just feeling all tight up in my stomach and abdominal. I was done, honey. And something told me to get up out the bed and go over to my computer. My music producer, James McKinney, who co-wrote most of the music I've recorded, he had sent me this instrumental track. It was just piano. And I hadn't written anything to it, and something just said, go to the computer and write. Baby, I turned that computer on. I started playing that song. I wrote one of the most beautiful songs that I've ever written. And as I was writing it, literally, I could feel my stomach coming You know, because it was like in a eternal contraction. You know, it was just tight. It was just in a hold. And as I began to write, I could just feel everything loosening up in my body. I could feel myself breathe. You know, sometimes we forget to breathe, as natural as that is. And I was just like, wow, I've never experienced anything like this before. And I was just like, baby, you better take this gift, because, you know, God didn't give you this for nothing. It ain't about, oh, she can sing her ass off. And it's like, that's cool. But when people come up to me and say, what you sang changed something for me, or I'm getting ready to quit this job tomorrow because it's an abusive situation, or I'm getting ready to, you know, do this thing I've been saying I was going to do for 5-6 years, but haven't. That for me is what it is. So it no longer becomes an ego thing of, oh, did I hit a flat note? Because I'm a hitter off note. Trust me, I will. But my heart, I remember a friend of mine who used to tour with Mary J. Blige. He was like, oh, Mary gonna hit some off notes, trust and believe. But she got that heart. People mess with her because she got that heart. They forgive the note because they be like, no, we mess with Mary because So it's like, I never understood it. I'm like, I never understood why I could get off stage and be like, dang, I sounded kind of a mess. And people come up like, ain't nobody thinking about that. This is what we heard. And so I'm like, oh, that's when the spirit steps in and you recognize it's not even about, you know, the perfection of the note. It was really about what was the intent behind it, what was the heart in it, because that's what people will feel.
Yeah. So a little earlier, I want to backtrack a little bit. You talked about your music being an escape when you left Chicago and moved to Plymouth, Massachusetts. We're going to talk about that. Your dad took you out to a damn farm. We're going to talk about that shortly.
Lord.
But you talked about your music being an escape. What were you escaping from, or what were you running from? Or were you running from anything?
I was running from an overtly and covert racist environment. It was, you know, in the environment I grew up in, they were racist on accident. You know what I mean? When they thought they were going out of their way to make me feel good, they were racist.
We call those microaggressions now. Now there's a term for that.
Oh my goodness, brother. And so, you know, I always felt like I had at school, you know, it was like, okay, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I was called nigger. And the interesting thing is, I would think that the more that it happened, the more desensitized I would be, but it almost was the opposite. You know, it never lost its potency for me. And I feel like I can remember in third grade, I always felt, up until a point, I thought that teachers were a safe space, you know. I knew that my peers weren't, because, you know, even children who I called my friends, you know, at some point in time, that race thing was going to come up, and they were going to throw out what their parents had taught them. And so I began to brace myself for it. So it began to be this thing of I couldn't feel completely comfortable anywhere in that white environment because I was waiting for it. I wait for it. Oh, it's going to happen. You know, you're going to get called nigger. You're going to get pushed. You're going to get ostracized. You're going to get isolated. Something's going to happen. Something's going to be said or done to let you know you're not us, and that's a problem. And so I remember third grade one day, this boy who constantly was always, you know, wanting to make my life hell, one day he called me a nigger, which was not unusual. So it happened in the classroom. A lot of times he waited till recess outside. So this time it happened in class. So I went up to the desk, and I remember her name, Mrs. Paulson. I'm thinking me and her are BFFs. So I lean over, because the irony of it of all, I'm embarrassed because he called me a nigger, but I'm the one embarrassed. So I lean over and I just whisper to her that Joey called me a nigger. This woman leans over to me, eye to eye, and says, "Little girl, don't be a tattletale." So there went the safety in the adult population at my school. Yeah.
So what was that relationship like after that?
My relationship with the teacher?
With the teacher, yeah.
Well, Lillian Gregory
You know when
she
you call,
found out
you know
about
when
it.
you call your mama by their first name, you know something is about to happen, right? You ain't say my mother came up there. When you call, like when I say Aline Shields, yeah, that means she
Yeah.
came up there. So what did Miss Lillian do?
Lillian Gregory, I don't know, because she kept me from it. She handled that, okay? Lillian Gregory wasn't happy. And so let me tell you, so the next day, the next morning, Mrs. Paulson, she comes up to me. Child, she sounded like she had become an overnight revolutionary. I was like, and so of course I just blew her off like, yeah, ain't nobody got time for that.
So what were your early thoughts about white folks? I mean, at that time, because again, your mind is being shaped, and even though you came from this very conscious family, we're going to talk about your family later on. But what were your thoughts at that young age about white people and how you engage them, or how should they engage you?
I had. This is so funny. I didn't have a black friend. I mean, I had all my siblings, but I didn't have a black friend really until like junior high school. So I had white friends, and I felt like there were white children who were friends of mine who I thought were kind people, were good people. So I don't think I had a sense that all white people were this particular way, but I think I felt like, generally speaking, there was at best, I felt like there was an insensitivity that they were just unaware of. If I would go to my best friend's house, and her mom is pronouncing my name for the first time, and it's like, oh, what a weird name. Oh, that's different. Oh, that's, it's like, no, not really. Different for you, but I know you don't know that. So you don't have a context that your context is just that. It's just yours. It's not the world. And so I think I had to, it was something that I just braced myself for. I felt like there was a level of ignorance in the white community. There was, at the time I don't even think I heard terms like white privilege, but, well, probably from my dad I did on some level. But, so I think I had a context for them, especially because of the family I grew up in, because it was a dichotomous life. Growing up inside my house, it was a very revolutionary environment. And so, inside the house, I'm proud of my black skin. I'm proud of my kinky hair and my history and culture and all of that. But then on the outside, I'm like, damn, well, are you sure there's nothing wrong with me? Because this outer world is huge, especially, as a child, your peers, they mean a lot to you. And so basically I didn't feel safe. I remember going to a friend of mine's house, and he was real cool. And some of my friends, they told me off the top, my father's racist, my grandfather's racist. I'm not, and I don't, the things that they want me to believe, I don't. I remember going to a friend's house, and his white grandmother, I felt like my friend sent me out to the wolves because we were playing in his room, and he was like, yeah, you can go out in the kitchen, because I said, oh, can I have a cookie? He's like, yeah, just go in the kitchen and go in the cookie jar and get it. Man, I went out into that kitchen. I just heard, what the hell do you think you're doing, girl? And I looked, and I was like, oh, hell no. I was looking at my friend Dave like, why are you going to do this to me? You set me up.
Wow.
And he was like, yeah, she's racist. She's this. He was just like, Grandma, stop. What are you, and I was just like, okay, I gotta leave your house. I don't feel safe.
And so
here,
we got to give people context. We talking like late 70s, early 80s. Where do we talk? We're not talking like 1940s.
Yeah, we're talking mid 70s into the early 80s. Yep.
Wow.
Mid 70s and the early 80s. Yeah, it was a problem. It was a real problem. And I one of the things that I talk about in the play is that I'm really a punk by nature. I mean, I hate to claim that, but real talk, I didn't come out no damn revolutionary energy. I didn't. I was like, I don't want to rock the boat. If nobody notices that I'm black in this room, I'm fine with that. I don't want to always be the other being in the room. I don't want to have to be the spokesperson for black people. When Roots came on when we watch Roots at home, oh my God, I was just like overwhelmingly proud our people endured this, and yes, this is our history, and it was emotional, it was powerful. When I had to watch that shit at school, all eyes are on me. Now there's the African booty scratcher jokes. Now I'm the spokesperson for black people, and how is it that I feel ashamed because of what your ancestors did to mine? How did that shit get twisted around? Like, as a child, I don't think I recognized, no, Ayanna, that's not your burden. You're not the oppressor. You don't have to carry that. And as I got older and realizing, dang, I feel sorry for them. Because it's not just us who were negatively affected by racism, white supremacy. It's like, no, white folks got tore up. I mean, I would when my father said that he would rather be killed than kill, I really understood that. I would much rather, I don't want to be a victim of anything, but to be the perpetrator of something so hideous and heinous, yeah, that I don't want that. So I'm good on that.
So were you ever angry at your parents? Because I know you grew up in a big family. There are 10 of you guys. What number were you?
9.
You were number
9.
You were number 9.
I was the baby.
So you were the baby.
Yeah.
So were you ever angry with your parents?
Yep.
Because you guys, they moved you from Chicago.
Absolutely. I still don't understand it.
I was going to ask you. And so why did your dad or your mom? Why Plymouth, Massachusetts, and then why the hell of a farm as well?
Look, I know he's transitioned, but you're gonna have to take that up with Brother Dick.
You still don't know. You still don't know the answer to that, huh?
No.
So, but you were angry at them because you were in this environment where you were. You were treated. Inhumanely from not only from your peers, but and not everyone, but from your teachers as well.
Yeah, I think I just was like, why are we here? Like, especially because, when we got the chance to go on the road with Dad, and then we'd be, in deep Washington, D.C., when it really was Chocolate City, and we're going to, other cities around the country that are black, and we're going down south, and I'm feeling like, yes, I can breathe. This is a difference. It feels different. The energy's different. The rhythm's different. It felt different. It really did, and I was just like, it made it harder sometimes to go back home when I really saw what it could have been to have grown up in a black city. It was definitely harder coming home. It was just kind of like, damn, I got to go back to Joey.
What was it like growing up in the Gregory household?
Wild.
Never a dull moment?
It was never a dull moment. First of all, Dad was flying by the seat of his pants, and he was changing up the rules every other week. So, we didn't start out vegetarian, and that joint happened pretty much overnight, and I wasn't, I should say this, by the time I came along, it was a little bit more established, but like my older siblings, they eating beef, they eating pork, they eating everything.
Yeah,
and then one day he's like,
transition, the shake up, huh?
He's like, shut it on down. And then it was like, okay, now we're not eating dairy, now we're not eating white bread, now we're not eating sugar. And so it was kind of like literally he would go away and come home and all the rules would change. You might come home and find all your toys in the trash, yeah? And you'd be like, what, am I in trouble? What? No. But he researched the ingredients and can't. That's
so
plastic.
He was hardcore.
I was like, dang. And sometimes when we would want to get a certain product, he would make us call Ralph Nader and ask, is this product safe? Can we ever, like, good Lord, come home, find my big wheel in the trash. You ain't right, Daddy.
So he was definitely hardcore.
We had to do mandatory camping on our own land, which we hated.
Yeah, because you guys had a huge farm, right?
Yeah, it really, I don't know why they called it a farm, because it really wasn't a farm. There was a barn, and they did leave us a horse. But the horse, you don't put no horse in the care of some black city kids who don't know nothing.
So
that horse died. Man, exactly. That horse probably died like a month after. Like, what were we supposed to do?
So now I read somewhere that you found an old Jet magazine in your house with your mother on the cover.
Yeah.
Because you're always hearing about Dick Gregory, Dick Gregory, Dick Gregory, and you hear him talk about Lillian all the time. And it's interesting. You and I talked about this off camera that our parents, my mother, I said this to you, my mother and father actually went out in Chicago with your mother and father. My mother knew, doctor, what's her name? Gosh, we talked about her.
Dr. Fulton.
Dr. Fulton. So I'm sharing this with you, and you like, this dude must, because some folks, they try to throw some stuff out there. But I know when I said Dr. Fulton to you, like, oh, this dude really knows some stuff. But you always hear about your dad. Let's talk about your mom when you found this Jet Magazine article with her in there. What was your reaction like?
Yet again, I was angry. I'm like, hold up. Why am I 12 years old and I don't know who you are? I don't understand. I'm looking inside the magazine and I'm like, it says the title says Lillian Gregory, Rebel with a Cause. I'm like, hold up. Do you have a double? Do you have a stunt double? Because I'm looking inside and I'm seeing you giving speeches, getting arrested, going to jail. And I'm like, Mama, I know you were with us every day, so I need to know how you were here and there at the same time. Like, who are you? What's going on? She would not answer me. She snatched the magazine from me. She was like, girl, give me that. I'm like, what? So I had to really find out who she was, this other side of her from other people. As I got older, I went down to Selma. They were like, oh, let me tell you about Miss Lillian. Oh, she was in that jail cell right there. She was in the jail for women. She was in jail. She was 8 months pregnant with the twins, and she was in jail on Christmas Day. They were going to let her out the next day because she was Dick Gregory's wife, but she said she wasn't going nowhere till all the sisters got to go. And, I mean, she was jailed so many times pregnant. This is a woman who, when Mom and Dad were in London, some friends of theirs gave them some footage for which they could have been killed. It was footage of the My Lai massacre of innocent men, women, and children in South Vietnam being murdered by U.S. Army soldiers. The United States, there was no knowledge of that here. And so Dad was trying to figure out how we going to get this footage into the country, into the United States without being killed. I mean, he was, all the phone lines. We grew up with tap phone lines, FBI taps and all kinds, death threats, all kinds of 3 assassination attempts, all that. So he knew it was he was in very real imminent danger to have that kind of footage trying to bring it into the country. So in the play, I reference it and I say, what did my daddy do? He gave it to the superhero. So he gave it to my mother. He didn't fly with her. She flew by herself from London to Paris, Paris to Montreal, Montreal to Toronto, Toronto to Chicago. And so when the U.S. government finds out that Dick Gregory ultimately has this footage and is now in the country, they had to hurry up and figure out a way to break the story so that it wouldn't be that this black man broke the story. But all that to say, I mean, because they already had the footage, they already knew, but they didn't want the world to know, so they were forced to. And so this quiet, humble, unassuming black woman who literally helped change the course of human history. And I wasn't born yet because this was in '69, but her children didn't know. I mean, all my siblings knew as she made it home on Monday for Michelle's dance recital. I'm like, who are you? So she's running
from the CIA, flying all over the place. I love black women. Then she makes it to the dance recital.
Come on now.
Brothers don't do that. Be like, oh, I got caught up at the club.
That's why Daddy said, I'm giving it to you. Exactly. He said, this one's for the champ. Here you go. Take that. Handle that.
So why do you think, we didn't hear much about your mom? Is it because your dad's personality was so large, or? Mom
did not want you cannot find a person who has a more adverse reaction to a microphone and a crowd. I mean, I'm just like, well, dag, Mama, you married the wrong one if you didn't want to be around people. But yeah, she doesn't, I can't tell you how many interviews of major publications that she shut down when they wanted to come to Tower Hill Farm to interview her and all. But she's like, She was very protective of herself and her children. She shut it down. And so, Dad, public all day, every day. Mama, she didn't want that. I mean, she did what she had to do, but she absolutely did not want any attention. I mean, she, even to this day, you know, it's like we at Dad's homegoing. You know, I was just like, Mom, my concern and my only concern is protecting you, because there's going to be thousands of people who want to greet you, and you know, and surprisingly, I mean, to my surprise, she did so much better than any of us thought. It seemed like as the night wore on, she got even better and better in terms of her energy because of just how beautiful the celebration was. But generally speaking, she just doesn't. She doesn't do public. She's very private. She's very quiet. She's very humble. And she's just family. She just wants to be about family. She lives her life vicariously through her children. You know, she don't even want it for her. She wants it for us. Everything she had, she gave to us. She gave up her privacy, her time. She gave up everything. 10 kids. And Daddy's, you know, when she wasn't on the road with him, she's home just taking care of us. Daddy's still on the road saving the world. She don't have no days off. So her life literally became our life. It was just like, she's happy when we're happy. When we're not happy, she ain't happy. It was the ultimate. I mean, you know, black women, they know about that. It was the ultimate sacrifice.
You wrote a song in her honor called "Mama, This One's for You." Tell us
One's
about that
for you.
song.
Oh wow. I just, you know, it was kind of hard because it was like, you know, as important as the song for my father was, which I wrote years before, the one for my mom was deeper because I was closer to her. You know, this was the woman who was with me every day. And so it was very different because, you know, the song for my father was more about all of these beautiful things that you are to the world, and I want you to know that I get it as your daughter. Whereas the song for my mom was more personal because it was like, you know, it was like, let me give you a couple lines. 10 babies that she raised and they wonder why she had to be at 10 places at the same time. You can't tell me that this here woman can't fly. Soccer games, track meets, dance lessons, staying up late with me when I was sick or stressing. Let's be clear, she's the reason why I'm here, yeah. Mama, this one's for you, so you could see you from my view. A woman so beautiful, a love indescribable. Mama, this one's for you. Mama, so beautiful. Without you, what would I do? Yeah. Mama, this one's for you. She's the rock, the power source they didn't see. She didn't want the credit, so she passed it down to me. But deep down, she's the root holding up this tree. If she don't talk about what she been through, if she don't brag about all the things she do, but you could see the light in her eyes. She talks soft but got a heart that goes from here to the sky.
Wow.
So it's,
Mama,
you know,
this
it's
one's for
that
you.
said, you know, oh, so much has been done for Daddy. We have honored him. The world has honored him. But Mama, this one is for you.
Well, speaking of the great Dick Gregory, who I got an opportunity, you don't know this, I interviewed your dad years ago when I used to do this radio show for young people, and I read his book, The Callous of My Soul, and he obliged with the interview. I was so honored and so blown away that he did it.
Wow.
I was just blown away. So when did you know that your father was famous?
Well, what happened was I was probably about, I don't know if I was around 10 or so. I remember, I didn't know I was in Washington, D.C. It's so funny places I go to, and I'm like, oh, this is where we were when I was 6. We was in D.C. So we had to be in D.C., and I don't know if it was like the Human Kindness Festival. It was some big festival. And we were probably like downtown on the mall or something like that. And I remember it was like all these people running.
How old
it was
were
just
you?
like
How old were you?
Louis folk. Had to be about 9 or so.
Okay.
And there were these people running. I mean, running. And I'm like, we're about to get stomped. And I'm thinking they're running to get somewhere to somebody. And I'm like, Daddy, we got to get out of the way. and I'm not realizing they're running to him. And so they surround us, and, everybody's just in his face, and I'm just like looking at him like, huh, who are you? Who are you really, I remember another time, actually I was a little younger, it's weird how you compartmentalize things, because there was lots of things I was a part of when I was younger and still didn't quite get it. I remember I was 6 years old when I met Bob Marley, and it was this forget what the function was that Dad was speaking at, but it was just so much going on I didn't even recognize all the attention that was on Dad. I think I was 7 years old when we went to this big what was it? It was an anti-nuclear power rally, like in Rhode Island or Connecticut, something like that. And me and my younger brother, Johansen, he was 5, I was 7, and it was our first speaking engagement. I was petrified. And I had to speak on the negative effects of nuclear power. And so my mother wrote my cute little 7-year-old speech. And my brother Johansen was like, nah, I think I'm going to take it from the head. I'm like, all right, you're going to be short. So we get there, and I just see all of these people, surrounding Dad. So I think I had a sense then, but at 5, I don't know, I still didn't quite get it. Because I think probably what overshadowed me realizing how popular Dad was I was overwhelmed when I stepped on the stage. It was my first time being on a stage and seeing what looked like a sea of cameras. And all I just saw were lights just clicking, clicking, clicking. And I was like, am I about to pass out? Because it was just like poof, 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 lights, just flashes going, going, going. And I see a sea of people. It looks like 100,000 people out there. And so I do my cute little speech, nuclear power is bad because da-da-da-da. And then my 5-year-old brother, Pimp, walks up to the stage, snatches the mic from me, and proceeds to preach. Oh, I was pissed. I was like, no, you're not going to, because, after I do my little speech, everybody's roaring. Oh, no,
you don't get a do-over. He took the mic, huh?
Auntie, he took it. He was like, now with his 5-year-old self, he's talking about, and babies suffering from the chemicals, and I was like, oh, it was over. It was a wrap. And so we went home, and Daddy was like, he talked to my mom. He said, dear, a star was born today. And I'm looking at my brother like, I'm going to get you. Took all my shine. But so it happened incrementally, I think, in terms of recognizing who Dad was. He took us around some of the most amazing iconic giants without us really knowing, So we're around, Muhammad Ali and Marvin Gaye and Stevie Wonder and, all these people, Bob Marley. I remember what used to be the Harambe House, and then it eventually became the Howard Hotel, which is now, who knows what it is. I think it's a bookstore now.
Bookstore now, yeah.
So we were, at that time it was the Harambe House. I was 7. I think it was around the time of, around 8. Johansen was 6. Always me and Johansen as the duo together. So we're in a hotel room with, I think, Marlon Brando, Stevie Wonder. I don't have a concept of who they are. We were mesmerized because we had never seen anybody blind with their glasses off. So I was looking at like the glaze on his iris, and we were just looking. And so my dad, I think he was nudging us like, stop, just
stop staring.
And so stop staring. I mean, not that Stevie would know. I'm like, Daddy, he can't see us. So we're sitting at the table, and at this time, the sanctions on junk food on strong, so we know we can't eat any junk, or at least not around my daddy. So there's a bowl of candy on the table, and so me and my brother, man, we looking like, hold up, all right. So Dad kind of steps away for a minute, so this is our big break. So Johansen, he's getting ready to get it, and he said afterwards, he's like, I felt bad because he was talking about Stevie. He was like, the blind man kept looking at me. He looked like he was looking at me.
Now he's self-conscious.
He said, but I was thinking, but I know he can't see. Damn it, I'm about to get this candy. And so he snatched it up like, man, he can't see. But it was haunting him like, but what if he can? What if we being punked? What if we being tricked? What if he's spying on us and he going to tell Daddy we going to get our ass whooped? And so he took the candy. And he felt bad about it after, but not bad enough not to take it. And it's so funny because about a year ago, I told Stevie that story, and he laughed. And he remembered, I mean, of course, he didn't remember the moment, but he remembered the occasion. He was like, yeah, we were there, Marlon Brando. It was for this Native American march. And I was like, yes. It was so wow that, you know, he remembered it. And I guess the march was a big deal. So, yeah, it was moments like that, you know.
So these were just people just hanging around your dad. They really
hanging around.
Meant nothing to you guys. They were just folks that your dad knew that they were in his circle, and they were all working to change society. So what's the one thing you want people to remember about your father's legacy? Because your dad, now, you and I have been in many spaces together. When TV One did the special about your dad, and we were there, you probably don't remember this, well, that I was there, but I'm sure you remember, we were in D.C. at Busboys and Poets, and I got a chance to watch the unsung piece about your dad. And then what I loved about him, he took photos with any and everybody. I mean, he was, he didn't consider himself a celebrity. And then when I look at what he walked away from, what he walked away from, this career in stand-up, and then basically pass it to Bill Cosby. I mean, literally said, here it is. I'm going to do something greater and bigger than this stand-up. And so to be in that space and to see him and hear him, and your father was always on. I don't think he ever had a day off. And so, when you think about that legacy, the Dick Gregory legacy, what's the one thing you want people to remember about him that they may not know?
What you just said, honestly, the biggest piece is what you just said, and the reason that I would say what you just said is most important is because what he taught in that example of giving it all away for something greater that most people would have been like, this nigga's crazy.
Yes,
is that he recognized that true abundance and greatness was not measured within the context of Hollywood and was not measured within the context of money. We grew up in an environment where we had everything we needed. I mean, there was ups and downs, and there were plenty of moments where we were in serious trouble financially, but this man made tens of millions of dollars and gave it away as quickly as it came because he never saw money in the abundance in the context of money. And I asked him one time, I said, Dad, I've watched you give away everything you own, like to the point that we lost our house. A check was signed over to save the house, probably a few $100,000 that was signed over to him. That was given to him. He signed the check over to Hosea Williams in Atlanta for the movement out in Georgia, just with a bat of an eye. I remember me and Johansi were at Howard. We were students at Howard when we got the news that we had really lost the house.
Have a place to go back to, huh?
It's like, where do we go from here? But I say that to say that when I asked him, I said, Daddy, I watched you give away everything you've owned. How do you... Because I'm not built like that. As generous as I like to think I am, I don't know. That's a whole different level of generosity. And I said, how do you reach that level? And he said to me, when you are willing to give your life on any and every given day, material things become inconsequential. They don't mean anything. Nothing. So, literally, $1 million come in and it's going right out. It's like, that ain't shit what that is. He paid for experiences. He paid for things. He paid for clothes. He had nice things. But he didn't, it literally meant nothing to him. And so the ability to, I think that's the one thing, because we didn't grow up with any type of luxurious life based on the money he made. It didn't equal how we lived, and I'm so grateful. It was just like we lived a very functional life, but what he did pay for as far as we were concerned was experiences. Oh, somebody want to go to Africa? Okay, you got that. Oh, somebody want to, start their own business? Here you go. But in terms of just, you trying to be Gucci, hell to the no. So, I think what you said was it. Every time he stepped into another level, he realized there was yet another level to reach, and it was like, everything is transient. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't it. every time he maxed out on being a track star. And it was like he could have rode that. The brother could have gone to the Olympics, really. And so, but then he got a taste of something else. Then he got a taste of comedy, and then he maxed out on that. And just at the point where he's ready to become a household name, and he literally is the biggest comedian in the country at that time, not just black, white, but the biggest comedian in the country, he gives it all away for civil rights. And then it's like, okay, but then he's not done, because now he becomes this health guru, and then he's not done because now he's dealing with humanitarian issues around the world, and he's going places like Iran to negotiate the release of the U.S. hostages. So literally he creates himself and recreates himself over and over and over and over. And so that's the other piece about his legacy, that nobody could put him in a box. Nobody could buy him. No one could put him in a box. Nobody could categorize him. It's like, damn, what does this nigga do? He does everything. And he doesn't do, of the 6-7 different things that he does, that he's known for, he did it at the highest level possible because he was free. He was a free man. And that's what freedom looked like. That's what liberation looked like in a society where it's very difficult to see what that is, because even when folk think they are, typically they're not. We see kids all the time. And I'm like, I know you think that you chose those sneakers on your feet, but you really didn't. You probably chose between two colors. That's the best you got. But in your mind, you think you're really choosing what you like. And so Dad, just having the courage to expose that and to say to the world, fear and God don't occupy the same space. I mean, here's a man who lived so publicly. Several assassination attempts that he survived, and your number is public. And when we left the house, the door was unlocked. I mean, you talk about gangsters? Come on now.
Wow.
They coming for him, and he said, handle that, player. You got it. What you want, what you need. You can't touch this.
Well, you talk about sacrifice. Your dad and your mom made a major sacrifice. But I want to play a clip from your one-woman play, Daughter of the Struggle, where you talk about the sacrifice that you made for those boys and girls, basically, who don't have fathers. So let's take a listen.
In a world of daddyless children, I sacrificed my father so the world could have one. And along the way, I found pieces of me. I found pieces of the legacy. Me, the princess, the warrior, the healer, the soldier, the keeper of peace. Understand that the same light that lives in him lives in you.
When I was young, I didn't know who my dad was. And, people used to, it's funny, people used to say, oh, you must miss your dad. And I was kind of embarrassed to answer them truthfully, because the truth was I didn't miss him. I didn't know him well enough to miss him. And so, a friend of mine recently asked me, was I angry that he was gone? And I was like, no. And he said, well, were you angry about anything? And I said, well, when I would see my peers with their fathers, and they didn't just have fathers, they had daddies. I wanted a daddy. I don't know that I necessarily wanted my father to be my daddy, because I didn't know him well enough.
Was it because he was gone so much, and because of the age where you were at the bottom of the barrel when it comes to numbers wise?
Yeah.
And so he was already deep into what was going on across the globe.
Yeah. I mean, my older siblings, they spent so much more time with him in their childhood. But yeah, he was always gone. And so it was kind of like, honestly, when he came home, for me, it felt more disruptive, because all I knew was the things I wanted to do when he was home, I couldn't do them. We was on lockdown. We had to do things very differently when Dad was home. And so that there was some resentment there, and kind of like, damn, I don't really know who he is. Because my mom was different. Mom was more lenient, and Mom was there every day. So we knew each other's rhythms. She knew us. She got us, whereas Dad didn't really know us, but I feel like he knew us spiritually, and So early on, when I didn't really know him, I was embarrassed to say I didn't know him. So sometimes I would just, people like, oh, you miss your daddy? Yeah, And then deep down, I'm like, no, I don't miss him. I don't know him. I don't know the brother. But what I did resent later, when I would sometimes hear other young people talking about how close they felt to him, and I felt bad because I felt like, well, damn, I don't feel close to him, but you do. And then fast forward, now I'm at Howard. Johanse's at Howard. I'm in my 19, now moving into my 20s, graduate from Howard. He's here a lot. He's here in D.C. a lot. So to me, D.C. was kind of like the second part of my childhood, even though I was pretty much grown. I came here at 19. So the dad's presence in D.C. and me being in D.C. for the last, almost 3 decades, that's when I got to know him, and that's when he got to know me. I mean, my father didn't know I could sing until I was grown.
Yeah, I watched the video. I watched that. He talked about that Kathy played some music, and he was like, who?
Yeah, I mean, that should let you know something. He did not know I could sing. And so, it was kind of like we had an opportunity with me as a grown woman, but still his child, to get to know each other. And that's what happened. And so in the last, 20 years, slowly but surely being able to break down barriers. Because as a child, I was afraid of him. He was, it was kind of like he didn't hit us, but I would much rather my mother whoop my ass than him give us the look. I mean, Daddy's energy. I mean, he'd be coming with the fire. So it was no different with us. I mean, he was bringing that heat. And so as a little girl, it was, it was just like, oh, this is scary. But as I got older, it was kind of like, okay, this is still your dad, and yet now you're grown. What does that look like? And now he wants to get to know you differently, because not just because you're his child, but because he sees you actively pursuing a life that he knows came from his seeds. You know what I mean? So as he sees me, not just singing, but now I'm at the movements. I'm now at the rallies. I'm at the marches. I'm at all of these spaces and places that he's at. And now, he's speaking and now I'm singing, or he's pulling me up. And sometimes he would give up his time for me, say, well, I'm not going to speak because I got my baby girl here and she's going to speak or she's going to sing. And then I remember him, telling my mom, she really has a gift. And, oh, that girl sure can pray. I remember sometimes, he would listen to me when we would do the family prayer. They would say, okay, Ayanna, you do it. And I think he was starting to see like there's a gift that was kind of directly passed down from him to me. It showed up a little different. And so as he began to pay attention to that, he began to spend more time with me and say, look here, this is what I need you to know. And so then it became teacher-student. Then it became, this is what I need you to watch out for. This is what I need you to be careful about. This is what I need you to do. He would always call and say, look, call me. It's very important. It's very important. I need to talk to you. I'd be like, oh, Lord, what's he getting ready to say? But he would and then he would take me all over the world. We went to Africa every other year and, on those long plane rides, sitting next to him, just talking about his life. And then I began to record him, and then I got to a point where I was like, man, this is so much classic shit he's talking about. I don't want to forget this stuff. And then he would just get to talk about his life, his childhood. Sometimes he would pick his college years. Sometimes he would talk about growing up poor in St. Louis. Other times he would talk about, just starting out in Chicago and all the jazz cats that he got to know, in a different way because he was performing alongside them and their personalities and and so a lot of things, and I got the sense that he felt like he wasn't a good dad. I got the sense that he felt like he was a deadbeat dad. I mean, he said such, and I would have to say I don't really agree. I mean, yes, he made it clear that the movement was more important than his family, that the movement that took precedence over everything, including his life and his wife's life and his children's life. He made it very clear from the beginning. And so a lot of people, I think would criticize that. And
yeah, but a lot of people criticize Malcolm X and Dr. King and many other folks who were a part of that struggle. I would hear people say, Malcolm just wasn't a good dad because of X, Y, and Z, or Dr. King, because the world was their work. And had you ever had any conversations with any other celebrity, quote unquote, celebrity children about what it was like growing up that way?
It's so interesting that you
I
asked.
know you're a different age of the King kids. They're much older than us, but there is you have so many other children who grew up just like you.
No, it's so interesting you asked. I just got off the phone with Bernice King a few days ago, and we talked about how important it is for us to come together to begin to do things collectively now. And so what happened was when I called Malcolm's daughters, when I invited them, and it was Ilyasa who spoke on behalf of the Shabazz family, and then Rena Evers from Medgar Evers' family spoke, and Martin Luther King III spoke on behalf of the King family. When we all got together, when we spoke at the funeral, we said we really have to come together. And then fast forward that next January, which was this past January at the top of the year, Bernice King invited all of the children to come down to Atlanta for a march for humanity. So they were all sitting around the tables. It was Santita Jackson, it was Ilyasa, it was myself, it was Rena Evers, and Bernice. Child, we were sitting around telling stories, and it was so crazy because it was like, obviously there were things that we don't have in common. I mean, I didn't lose my father violently. I mean, what they endured was a whole different level of things. But then we talked about the things that we had in common, the death threats, the phone taps,
just everything.
All of these other things that were so, and it was like, it was so therapeutic, and we were like, oh, we got to, so we're planning some things together, we're all really going to come together.
That's a good piece of history. I would have had to record it just going, because to be around in the circle with that many powerful women, I think I shared with you that Attila Shabazz and Desmond Tutu's daughter and Hosea Williams' daughter spoke at my sister. We were trying to get you there. Spoke at my daughter's school, and they all shared these very similar stories about their parents having these huge callings on their life. Is there anything that you wish that you could have done with your dad prior to him transitioning? I didn't get a chance to go to the service. Of course, my Pastor Wilson, was there, but I watched it. It was amazing, that service, the several days of watching them celebrate your dad. Is there something that you wish that you could have done prior to him transitioning with him?
The only thing that I wished, and I was just like, man, I keep, don't kick yourself. But the only thing that I stalled on that I really wanted to do, I've never done a music video, and I wanted one of the first music videos to be with him in it. And I had this image of us having these two T-shirts on, and his T-shirt being father of the struggle and mine being daughter of the struggle, and us dancing together. And so it was something that I had said, we're going to do it, and I just waited on it. And
you remember Natalie Cole did a video with her dad that was like groundbreaking with Nat King Cole. With technology, I mean, who knows what you can do. So I want to jump back real quick into your music. I know you are into meditation like I am. How is meditation connected to your art?
There's a song called Now that I would say is probably the most important song that I've written to date. It's become like an anthem for my life, and it's a healing anthem. And so it's a song about really stepping out of fear and doubt and just stepping into the now, stepping into the highest manifestation of self. And so in the song, I was telling my producer, I said, I really want this to be an unconscious meditation. I don't want people to know that it is. But so when we were recording it, we had all these layers, all these vocal layers. Under the lead vocal track, we probably had like at least 10 other vocal tracks, probably more than that. And with some of those layers were meditative sounds and chords. And so we were doing the and the and all of these things that were connected to, balancing the chakras and really just restoring balance to the equilibrium of mind, body, and spirit. And so, I didn't want the song to sound that deep and sound that heady. I just wanted it to be something that people got and felt good about. And then I said the same way that, all of the negative ways that subliminal messages are planted in music, I want to do the same for positive. Sometimes you don't always have to spell out what this is. And so I don't say the song is a meditation, but really it is. Not to mention the fact that music for me is really just that, And music what it has become in the last maybe 7 years has become a much more spiritual experience, because it used to be that I never experienced possession or anything like that on stage, but I remember experiencing a moment where it was not me anymore. It was not the stuff that was coming through me. I was hitting notes that I can't hit. There was improvisational brilliance coming through me that me on my own I couldn't do.
So those ancestors were coming through you, huh?
Oh, this is what happens when you get out the way. Ancestors coming through strong. And so that, in that way, I don't know that I would necessarily call it a meditation, but it was certainly something that was on such a high vibrational level that I thought as soon as you get out of the way and push your ego out of the way and say it's really not about you. Okay, what's possible? What can happen here? If the goal is healing, if the goal is upliftment, if the goal is inspiration, liberation, and just helping people live their best lives, what's possible when you get out of the way and say, look, Creator, Mother, Father, God, ancestors, spirit guides, guardian angels, all forces of good and God and light and love, come through me. I humbly pour myself before you and ask you to pour into me and out of me everything that needs to be said and everything that needs to be uttered in order for this space to be transformed. And, it doesn't happen that way all the time for me. There's some times where I'm in my head because I'm like, oh, the sound is messed up, and then I'm worrying about this, I'm worrying about that. But when I'm comfortable and I'm in a space where I'm not thinking about any of that, that's when it opens up, and I'm not worried about the lyrics I'm singing. I'm just not worried about anything. I'm just like an open vessel. And that's when there's nothing better than that. There's no feeling more high than that one for me. That's what church is for me. We didn't grow up in church. We grew up praying and meditating at home. But I can honestly say what feels closest to church for me is that.
So if you could tell your young acting or singing self anything, what would it be?
It would be
the young Ayanna.
Oh my goodness! It would be like, okay, I can't tell her don't be nervous because that would be futile because I'm going to be nervous. Okay, so I would tell her. That as much as she's focused on getting the note right and making sure that she's, learning the music and writing and, getting it to a professional place, I would tell her that all of that is important, but it pales into comparison to what the spiritual musical journey will be. And that if she could make that her focus, then everything else would really fall into place. And I would tell her, don't worry about being categorized. Don't worry about, where the industry will put you or, because I never really entered the music industry, actually. But at the time when I was young, I was just like, I think I scared myself still because I think it was just like, well, what are they going to do with my voice? And, are they going to try to change me? And, I had all of these different conversations about why I didn't want to do it this way or that way. And now it's just like, don't block your blessings, It can, however it's supposed to come, let it come. If something feels good or right and when it doesn't. And so I think it would be, not to put a whole bunch of rules in place, but to just say, trust yourself. Because there's never been a time where my first voice, the God voice, has been wrong. Not ever. And to trust it, to say, just trust it. Yes, you're young and no, you don't know the game and all that's fine. But you have a God force that moves inside of you. Trust that and you're good.
All right, so this is the part of the show where I ask the sound bombing super questions, okay? And
Okay.
I'm going to throw these questions out to you quickly, and I want you just to come up with a quick response. All right. What is your favorite word? That's not a word.
Healing.
Say it again.
Healing.
Healing. What is your favorite sound?
Warm.
What is your superpower?
Breath.
And what is Ayanna most grateful for?
My gift.
Your gift. Okay. So what's next for Ayanna Gregory? Are you working on any new music?
Yeah.
What you got coming up?
So I actually just, I don't want to say accidentally, but it just kind of came together a bit randomly, recorded a song a couple weeks ago. I don't know if you're familiar with a musician named Frank McComb.
Yeah.
He's
yes.
Donnie, talk about Donnie Hathaway and Stevie Wonder.
He does a Donnie Hathaway. He has a white. Come on, how you gonna play me? Say, do you know? Yeah, we get a white album cover. He does a Donnie Hathaway rendition. All right.
Yep. A lot of folks. It's just crazy. So many people I ask, I'm just like, how do you not know him?
Yes.
But
Yes.
okay,
yes.
I should have known. No, but anyway, I went to go see a show at Blues Alley, and next thing I know, a couple days later, I was at his hotel along with a couple other sisters recording a song with him. And the name of the song is "You Will Know When Love Is Real," and it's kind of like because he recorded the song on his album already from like an older man's perspective to a younger man. You'll know when love is real when da 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 da. And so he said we could write our own lyrics from the women's perspective, talking to the young sisters. You know when love is real when. So we recorded that, and they were sisters I didn't know. They could sing their butts off, and I was just really grateful that he asked. You know.
Congratulations.
All that to say that I'm writing right now. There's a piece that I'm working on called Black Man that I'm beyond excited about. And so my music partner that I referenced earlier, James McKinney, he's the one who wrote the majority of the music of the CDs that I've put out thus far. And he's like, "Yo, we gotta do this next album. It's been a minute." So the last couple of studio sessions I wasn't feeling well, so I canceled, and so we haven't been in the studio in months. And so I just reached out to him earlier to say, you know, what's up? Let's rock and roll.
Well, congratulations on that. So, final question? What's something people may not know about Ayanna Gregory? Something that they can't Google, something that they can't go to Wikipedia. What's something that people may not know about you?
Wow. So many things I could say. I mean, I was just saying, how deep you want to
PG-13.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Wow. Let's see. I'm really, really silly. I love to clown, and I love to. I'm a big kid, So if most people don't know this, if you're not around me, but if you are around me for an extended period of time, and you see me with children, I will dissolve into the children.
And
because
you're always around children. When I see you, when I think I might have met you, you are always around children. And I love that. One thing, so I went to school with Erykah Badu at Grambling. And when Erykah was not on the stage, she was either teaching, she was around children. Lauryn Hill, was the video they just posted. Lauryn Hill was singing with children. So when I see you, I normally see you around children. Your album that I purchased from you for my daughter was children. It was about children. It was about teaching. So I can see that. So people that don't know you, but people that know you, that know that you're real silly.
Also, I'm pretty out of shape right now, but generally speaking, I grew up pretty athletic. So if you see me on a field, I'm very competitive when it comes to physical sports.
I like
If you see me on a field, I don't care if it's dodgeball, I'm going for it.
I like that. Okay. So how could people get in contact with the great Ayanna Gregory?
Well, they can send me an email at ayanna.gregory@gmail. That's AYANNA.gregory@gmail. If they want to book me for an event, they can send an email to booking@ayannagregory.com. And my website is just that, ayannagregory.com. And you can kind of, the only thing that I don't have on my website is my upcoming events and stuff. Pretty much, you got to go to Facebook and Instagram for that. On Facebook, you can find me easily just under Ayanna Gregory. On Instagram and Twitter, it's I'm Ayanna Gregory. Not I am, just I am Ayanna Gregory. And that's where all of the stuff, I have a show. I'll be doing Daughter of the Struggle for some seniors at Kenilworth Courts here in Washington, D.C. on Friday. And then Saturday, I'll be at Annapolis Family Day on Saturday. So, I have a few things coming up and just doing my thing. But, yeah, Instagram and Twitter, you'll always be able to catch up with the things that are happening currently.
Well, it has been a pleasure talking to the baby girl of Mr. Dick Gregory and Lillian Gregory. It has been an honor to be in your presence. I thank you. I wish you nothing but the best. I thank you for your light. I thank you for pouring into my daughter when she is around you. And I thank you for being a great example of womanhood. Our ancestors are so proud of you. And I thank you for coming to the Sound Bombing program to be a part of that. And so I thank you and wish you much success. And I also want to thank my producer, Darius Wilmore, and Supremacy for our theme music. And as always, believe that something wonderful is about to happen and that some people miss the message because they are too busy looking for the mess. Thank you for tuning in, and do something for someone other than yourself today. You've been listening to Sound Bombing.